Hi, Sydney. How you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
Good, thank you. It's so nice to see you because we've not seen you now for, is it a year or 2 years since you've been in the States?
2 years. I left October 2018.
Wow, that's insane. Time flies.
I know. I miss you guys, though.
I know. Well, for everyone who hasn't met Sydney, Sydney is one of our BRT members. She worked in the incubator for a while when she was based in Edinburgh. But Sydney, if you can give us a little intro to who you are and your business.
Sure. So I'm Sydney Chasin. I'm the founder of the Lil Pops, and we are creating a range of ancient grain-based snack food products, reimagining everybody's favorite products with wholesome, clean ingredients. And the first product that we have right now is popped sorghum. It looks like super tiny popcorn, but entirely corn-free. And sorghum is an amazing ancient grain that's never been genetically modified and super sustainable. And then what we do with the product is we super thinly coat it with a corn syrup-free, dairy-free candy coating, so it makes a lower in calorie, lower in fat, popcorn-like experience. And I actually started the company, I guess the final semester of my degree at Napier 4 years ago. And I cannot believe it's been four years. And really started off the back of an ideas competition with Scottish Institute for Enterprise, Scottish Institute for Enterprise? Yeah.
Yep.
And SIE. And then, yeah, I mean, as soon as it really started, pretty much lived in Bright Red Triangle.
Yes, you did. Yeah.
I was loyal. I was very loyal to Bright Red Triangle.
Indeed. Okay, so we've got a bit of background about yourself, Sydney. Can you go into a little bit more detail about where the idea came from?
Yeah, so I guess a little bit more background on myself. I grew up in the US in a tiny farm town of 150 people in Maryland, outside of Washington, D.C., where lots of grains were grown, mostly corn and soy, but there were some farmers growing sorghum. So I've been familiar with sorghum my whole life, and I've also been gluten-free since I was 7 years old. So a combination of that, I've been playing around with ancient grains, alternative ingredients my entire life. So I had this ideas competition come through my inbox with SIE, and it said one of the very big, bold questions of, do you have an idea that can change the lives of people in Scotland, better our economy, change the future? And I mean, quite frankly and honestly, I thought that was a little funny, and I was 20 getting this through my inbox and procrastinating writing my dissertation. I was like, yes, well, this haggis-eating, whiskey-sipping, beer-drinking culture needs a wonder grain to change their lives, and have known about this grain my whole life. Did not think I was going to be starting a business straight away out of uni with no money to my name. And yeah, I think won 100 pounds of funding at the time, and they were like, I think you're onto something here. And I'm like, I'm talking about small popcorn. What are you talking about? They're like, well, you really actually have an idea that can essentially capitalize on all of these growth categories that are happening, follow all the trends, and this product and this grain that nobody else knows about delivers on this promise. And I was like, okay, I guess I am onto something. And I remember Nick at BRT said to me, he's like, oh, would you think about starting business? I was like, absolutely not. That's a cute idea. No. And I was applying to a bunch of roles in sales and recruiting when I was graduating, and I was just so put off by corporate world, and in a 25-minute interview that I couldn't get across that I was a hard worker and financially motivated and all of these things. I think I left one of the interviews in tears, and I was literally like, screw all of you. And I think on the train from London back to Edinburgh, I emailed Nick, and I'm like, so tell me about starting a business.
That's an incredible story.
It's out of spite.
It kind of starts like this, sounds like this trailer of a movie, or like just, you just imagine that it's a really good story coming after that.
Crazy.
So you got your validation from SIE. They kind of said, look, you're onto something. You got a few kind of elbows. You think of starting a business. What were your next steps after that then?
Yeah, and I think, giving a huge shout out to SIE, I think it's just like a vote of confidence, whereas like I thought it was crazy to start a business. Next steps, well, I took that 100 pounds of funding and bought like a little tiny air popcorn machine, a bag of sorghum grain, and nothing popped. And I just smoked out my kitchen and nothing worked. So I had a bit of a cute idea, and just no way of making the product. So, oh God, thinking back on like how it all started, I think it was just every day, just like figuring something out. And still it's like figuring out everything that's not working. I think it was figuring out the grain. I was like speaking to any grain supplier, speaking to people, and I think like 8 different countries, trying to figure out why my grain wouldn't pop, and then understanding the science of popping things. And then I feel like there were all different things siloed separately. I was like, ooh, what's it mean to build a brand? I didn't really know the definition of brand. And it was like, literally playing around, like doodling things, and without sounding like super fluffy, like literally dreaming, like literally just like trying to get all of these things, all of these different ideas together. And each thing that I didn't figure out was just a process of figuring things out before actually taking any like true actions towards something. And that's like very, very early days though.
Yeah, it's amazing. I think you've got an idea and you get so motivated and behind it that it just like, it's almost just like tenacity just drives you through. It's like blind naivety. It works in your favor, I think, at the start, especially if it's maybe your first or second business. You just keep going no matter what barriers
someone asked me the other day, they're like, why, tell me about a time that most people would have quit and you kept going. I'm like, every single day, like every day.
Yeah, that's so relatable. Okay, so you kind of tried to work out why it wasn't working. You got to a stage, I guess, where the product was viable and you could see how it was working. What did you do in terms of like product testing, the product itself, the flavors, your customers? Can you tell us a bit more about that?
Yeah, I think what people most talk about is like product market fit, that type of product testing. Well, if you're doing something super innovative, and I know that you have experience with this in the past, there's product testing to make sure consumers want it, and there's also product testing to make sure it's producible.
Yeah.
And I think that was like the hardest thing. So they both kind of happened at the same time. So the first time ever really getting it in front of people was at the Stockbridge Farmers Market, which I did once after quickly realizing I will not stand in the cold in Scotland. But okay, back it up. Before that, popping product in my kitchen, anyone I got near, whether it was like someone on the street, at the bar, I'd have it in my handbag, be in BRT, anything, just getting people to try it. Not actively conducting a search saying, I want to know people's reaction, answer A, B, and C. It's just like noticing how people interact with the product, their interests, what they don't like, what they do like. I was noticing people weren't picking up product for a second time. And it's like, they would never tell me that it wasn't good, but something was wrong. Add some salt to it. Oh, suddenly people are eating it more. And it's like figuring things out like that. So that was earlier than Stockbridge Farmers Market. For the farmers market, I was like, let's properly get it in front of people. Made 220 bags out of my kitchen with all of my little individual popcorn machines. And I think it took 18 hours to produce these 220 packs. So talk about very quickly realizing that you can't produce it a certain way.
Yeah,
I had enough to test it in front of people, so did exactly that. And I had a little electrical fire. It was like not good. These machines are not meant to be run for 18 hours. So brought it to Stockbridge Farmers Market, a lot of excitement around the product, started learning and just, paying attention to what people liked, what people didn't like, threw a mailing label on a plastic bag, living by the rule of if you're not embarrassed by your first product, you're moving too slowly. It's horrible. I want it to be framed one day, like the picture of that god-awful bag. And just reminiscing for a second here, going to that market and really having no money. I refused to take a taxi because really no money. And I put all of my stuff in a suitcase and walked it down the Water of Leith from Haymarket down to Stockbridge along the water. All of the trucks were pulling up to set up, and I had my bed sheets as my table and unloaded my suitcase, and like that was
amazing.
That was it. So yeah, that was that bit. But the biggest thing realizing after that is like, okay, I'm on to something here. So I had a little bit more confidence in the product, but couldn't produce it this way. And I was like, I will never stand out there ever again. And you know, it's like we did well. We sold 60 units. Well, we sold 60 units out of a product that retails at £1.50. So, you know, you're not trying to make money straight away. You're just trying to prove something.
Yeah.
So I really quickly realized production-wise and validating how it's produced is that it was kind of all or nothing, where I couldn't produce it like, you know, a lot of baked goods companies can produce their cookies in their kitchen. They outgrow their kitchen. They move somewhere else. I couldn't do that. So it was all or nothing. So I wanted a little bit more confidence before like properly moving to a big manufacturer. And it also takes time to move to a big manufacturer. So I produced some more product in my home kitchen. And I think I took on maybe like 10 little accounts in Edinburgh, gave them product and said, all I want to know is if it sells or not. And we went in a few bars, a few cafes, some health food stores, just testing it. And it was moving and people were interested in it. It was not like the best way to collect data because I don't know who was buying it. I don't know if the staff were eating it. I don't know anything, but at least there was some buzz around it. Sure. Again, it's just like different stages of giving me confidence that there's something there. And then started speaking to big manufacturers, which I was, you know, the tiniest thing to them at the time, which was really, really challenging.
Yeah, I mean, I guess the great thing about your story so far is you're basically telling people just to continue taking baby steps, you know, and that's so important at the start of someone's journey. They can feel quite overwhelmed or feel like they have to do the really big shiny thing first, but by taking little steps every day or every week in your business to help move it forward and iterate it, you really can see a massive, you know, difference.
Yeah, and I think it can just be so overwhelming to just go straight for the big thing. And it's like even the baby steps, like I remember some mentor in the UK said to me, you know, you want to be in Tesco in 2 years. I'm like, well, I don't know, maybe. And they're like, okay, what's it going to take to be in Tesco in 2 years? And it was literally every baby step backwards. So it's like, well, we need a big manufacturer. We need this. And it's like, well, I'm not ready for a big manufacturer. And it brought it all the way down to present day. And I mean, no pun intended, but little bite-sized like steps.
Yeah.
It makes the difference. And still like now where we're like about to like do a really big launch, big distribution that we're like gearing up for, and I have staff and I support, it's still incredibly overwhelming. And it's still the same exact mentality from the start of like, chunk it down, piece it down, tiny little thing. Let's get this next, figure it the hell out.
Amazing. So I guess just a quick one on the manufacturer. I think a lot of people would be interested to understand how you got a big manufacturer to take you seriously as such a small or startup brand.
Yeah, that took a lot of learning. So I knew what the costs were going to be going into it. And, you know, 5,000, 10,000 pounds to a tiny startup company is a lot of money. And I'm like, I'm coming to you with money. So I am your customer. They don't care. Like it's more of an inconvenience for them to work with your tiny little purchase order. And really realized after like a lot of conversations, I encourage anyone getting into manufacturing, learn this day one versus like 6 months in like I did. You're pitching to them almost harder than you're pitching an investor. They need to see the opportunity. It's totally appropriate to show them a deck of what the opportunity is. For the most part, yes, there's risk that they could take your idea, but for the most part, they're not going to now start a brand. So share as much as you can and feel comfortable with. And it's literally like, this is the same things that you would do for any pitching competition or anything. This is the market opportunity. This is the size. This is why it's going to work. And you won't have the flashy account to dangle in front of them, but if they can at least see what your innovation pipeline is, they will get behind you, and they're truly one of the most important partners.
Yeah.
They make or break you.
That's incredible. And I think, you know, that's such good advice to people starting out, because every brand starts out as something, you know. Brands aren't just suddenly created unless they're owned by a multi-million-pound company, you know, and then they're household names and they have massive accounts. So probably the first purchase order for every food and drinks brand is really small, but it is partnership is so important.
And, you know, I want to say this with like my experience in the US, which it has nothing to do with being in the US versus being in the UK, but how I essentially restarted the business over here. I wished in the UK that I could have done something in between the tiny popcorn machine and a big manufacturer. Yeah. I went too big, too fast, not like too big, too fast distribution, but I had to. There was no other option with the machinery that I needed, with my supply chain in the UK. Here, there was. So actually, when we moved over here, I went so many miles backwards before going forwards again, from lessons learned. And we went into a commercial kitchen. I was in the kitchen producing this product by hand, 24-hour weekends. It was so grim. Like, oh my God, it like pains me to think about it. And then like I hired one production staff, and it was like the two of us. And then we hired an extra person. And then we got to a team of 5 in this commercial kitchen that got us in front of buyers enough, in front of consumers enough to secure large distribution that I could justify going over to a big manufacturer. So if someone's creating a food product and it is producible in a small scale, whether it's like an extra shift that you use from a restaurant or a bakery that has downtime or something, start small, because it's grim, but it's so much easier to do it that way.
You've got a lot more control at that point as well, when the product is so new, about, you know, learning, innovating and all that kind of stuff as well.
Yeah. And right. So like when we just scaled up with a manufacturer, I knew the product like the back of my hand. Yeah. I know everything that goes wrong. I can literally feel in the air, if the humidity is higher, how it's going to affect the production day.
Yeah.
And not having touched your product, and I didn't have that in the UK because I didn't have that luxury of being able to produce in a commercial kitchen there. It was harder to scale up with a manufacturer where I was the expert in the room.
Yeah, that's incredible. And that's, I think, very, very valuable advice, 100%. As someone who's tried to scale a food and drinks business that didn't work, I think that advice is extremely valuable, for sure. Really get your product with your hands. Don't be afraid of it, you know?
I mean, I think I still have like burn marks on my hand from like producing this product.
You're mentally scarred anyway by the end of this journey. So what's wrong with some physical scars on top of that?
It's true. I'm tough.
Exactly. So I guess, how long did it take you from kind of that point of speaking to a manufacturer to get to market? Are you there yet? Where are you on your journey?
So again, it's like I feel like I've had 2 startups, even though it's a continuation of the same thing. In the UK, it took a lot longer, not because I was in the UK, but because we were so new. Yeah. It's now been a little bit of a faster process because, you know, we have the distribution in place. We know when we have to ship product. We have like everything sorted. And a recipe and formulation and everything, and a team to support it. But still, I think I started a conversation with our contract manufacturer in February this year. We scaled everything beginning midsummer, and we don't go into production until November. Wow. And I mean, we're on the phone with them twice a week, tight pipeline, getting everything sorted, because I now know from my experience in the UK, like I understand how long it takes, but from testing packaging materials to testing a new formulation to figuring out your box sizes, it doesn't, as much as you want to parallel path it doesn't happen at the same time. Yeah. And I think what I've learned most is just having to be patient with it and trusting it.
Amazing. So where are you at now then? Are you selling at the moment, or where's on the horizon for sales?
Yeah, so we are in about 80 stores in the US right now because that's all that could be produced by hand. So we're pretty much all across the East Coast, well, Northeast, Mid-Atlantic, and then we have some accounts in LA and San Diego, where we're launching in January. I can't properly announce exactly where we're launching, but region-wise, we're going into the Pacific Northwest, Northern California, Southern California, Texas, and the Midwest.
That's incredible, Sydney. Absolutely incredible.
Thank you.
Yeah.
The scale of things are very different
in
the US compared to the UK. I mean, even just trucking. Like, I could get a pallet from Southern England to wherever I wanted in Scotland a day and a half. It takes like 7 days for me to get something across the country.
Oh, interesting. Right. Okay. So different kinds of, more opportunity, but different challenges.
Yeah. And like really big challenge. Like where you store the product. Like, why are we storing the product in the middle of the country? Well, because it has to get to the east, and it has to get to the west, and it doesn't make sense to have 2 warehouses at the same time, where you just don't have to have those problems in a physically small country.
Yeah, of course. That's incredible. So I guess I'd love to know, what kind of advice would you give to, anyone in the BRT community or wider community that's thinking of starting a food and drinks brand?
Okay, so I think it's like some things that are like have already been said or shadowed, but patience.
Mm-hmm.
And also understanding you're not going to make money day one.
Yeah, for sure.
So I think a lot of people can be naive about that. There's a way to very sustainably build a company. It will take even more time. Unfortunately, things just cost money, and you just have to have patience through the process. And then start as small as you can. Like I said, don't go from 0 to 100 until like you really think on all ends, manufacturing and sales and everything can support that. And then I think this is something that I learned especially early on, which is like, again, sounds so cliche, but like trust your gut. And it's like, I had a very, very bad gut feeling about something in the UK, and with the manufacturer, and plowed through and was like, it's fine. I'm young, I'm naive, so I wouldn't know if this is good or bad. And it was a bad situation. And we got ourselves out of it, but that was like, I should have listened to myself. And now I'll do that. Like, even we can have sales opportunities where I'm like, I don't have a good feeling about this. And it's just like, it doesn't make sense on paper, but listen to that. And founder's intuition is more valuable than any big, massive, long CV or resume.
I think that's a really important point. Definitely, when you're starting a business or in that growth phase, you can be so desperate that you'll hang on to any opportunity, even if it doesn't feel right, because you're operating from a place of stress a lot of time rather than, the right mindset. So trusting your gut and intuition, having the confidence to do that is extremely important for sure. Absolutely.
Another favorite little bit of advice that someone gave to me, which was just kind of funny, it's like a confidence booster, is you're the prize, not the charity, which I think we often feel a little desperate when it's pitching for money or raising investment or speaking to a contract manufacturer. It's like, yeah, you probably do need them more than they need you. But at the end of the day, like, you're creating something special and you're doing it for a reason, and it's business at the end of the day. It's not human. That like, you are the prize. It is an opportunity for them to be part of what you are doing.
Sure.
And remembering that, like, I will walk into an investor meeting, I'm like, I'm the prize, not the charity. Let's go.
That is brilliant advice. And that's so true. That is really good advice. I love that. So I guess just to finish up then, where can people find out more about Lil Pops?
Sure. So social media at the Lil Pops, TheLilPops, or thelilpops.com, and then always reachable at Sydney@thelilpops.com. Amazing. And when we're all in the US on holiday, when we can eventually visit again, we'll be down to buy your product, because we can't buy it anymore, can we? Nope. And by the time all of this is over and travel will be happening again, we'll be everywhere. Yay, that's incredible. I can't wait to hear that news when it comes out.
congratulations in advance, because I know how hard you've worked. You're quite an incredible person. You really deserve all the success, that's for sure.
Well, thank you very, very much. And it all started with Bright Red Triangle.
I know. Wonderful. Yeah, well, I hope everyone else obviously enjoyed this chat, and you take some of Sydney's advice, especially if you're a food and drinks business, but lots of takeaways for everyone for sure in there. Right, Sydney, I'm going to end the broadcast now, but thank you so much for your time. As always, it's an absolute pleasure.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.